In this video here, I'm gonna teach you how easy it is to paint a simple and minimalistic sunset. In fact, this sunset is based off Dana Point Harbor in California, and I'm gonna show you how easy it is to make awesome art. What is going on, all you awesome and creative people? Let's just get the basics out of the way. My name's Wild, and if you like this type of content, make sure you hit like, subscribe, and comment down below. And hey, while you're down there, you might as well just become a YouTube channel member and help support this community. It helps me a lot, so thank you. Now, before we start this awesome painting, we need to make sure that you prep your canvas correctly. Now, you don't need to use a gigantic level 3 canvas like I did, but if you plan on using a gallery wrap, I do recommend taping off your walls. Why, you ask? It's actually gonna help that minimalistic and simplistic look because it's gonna leave your walls white, which is gonna help create separation from the wall of where you hang it on, and it's gonna add to the modern effect. To make sure you keep your walls nice and clean, just use some basic painter's tape. Do some nice straight lines across the walls, but make sure you go back over the line that comes to the front of the canvas and push down extra hard or use your fingernails so that way the tape actually sits on the toothing so no paint feeds down and in. This is gonna help you create clean lines as you peel the tape off. The next prep thing you need to do is, since we're gonna create buttery, smooth, velvety gradients here, we wanna make sure there's little toothing on our canvas. To do this, we wanna make sure that we use basic white gesso. Very easy. Every layer of gesso you do is going to fill in the toothing of that canvas, so that when we apply color on top of it, it's gonna just be this nice, smooth looking effect going across your sky, which is really gonna help with that minimalistic and simplistic appeal. Now, I personally put down 2 extra layers of gesso across the entire canvas. Feel free to add or subtract from that number for whatever appeal you're going for, but for me, 2 layers worked perfectly. Okay, we're almost ready to paint, but we still got one more prep step. We need to make sure we put in a horizon line, so that way we know exactly where everything's going to do. Now, I personally went 33% up from the bottom of my canvas and taped that off with painter's tape. This follows in the rule of thirds, which is generally more aesthetically pleasing to the eye. You can put yours whatever you want, but I would recommend somewhere around there. But stick around for the video and you'll see how I kind of mix things up a little bit. Now that we've got everything prepped and we're ready to go, yes, now we can get those brushes wet. The first step, since we're gonna do wet on wet, is apply our liquid base coat. For me, I'm going to use Bob Ross Liquid White and apply it across the entire canvas in a nice thin coat. Now, if you're the type of painter that's brand new or struggles with putting on too much liquid base medium, the good news is that's actually gonna help you out a little bit here. But just to let you know, if you are heavy-handed, your colors that you put on top will be a little more diluted by that liquid white. So make sure you know that going into this painting, because you may have to apply more color later on. The nice thing about these minimalistic skies is the fact that anybody can do it, and it's gonna help you on your blending skills, and that's all it is. This is just the blending of essentially 3 colors for me, using Cadmium Yellow, Alizarin Crimson, and Phthalo Blue. But I kind of want to make this a little more surreal in my mind, which again leads to the minimalistic approach, and do banding of colors as I work my way across and on top of my canvas. And I love this appeal. So all I did was apply most of my colors for each section with a 1-inch or 2-inch brush. Then I worked my banding of color just out and across and slightly up or slightly down, depending on the color that I'm using. Now, I went ahead and made an extra little step, and as I got to the next color, I would always leave a little baby strip of white in between. The reason I would do this is because I would then clean off my 2-inch brush and make it extremely dry. Beat it off, dry it off, let it sit around for a little bit, and make sure those bristles were dry. Did a dry brushing technique, which means I'm gonna slowly start pulling colors closer and closer together. When you use a wet or dirty brush, you're gonna move colors too fast and too quick to where you may get color transitions that you don't want. Especially when things like yellow and blue hit, you're gonna get a green in your sky that you're not gonna want. When you leave that banding of white and do dry brushing techniques, or somewhat of a dry brushing technique, it's really gonna start pushing those colors slower and slower together so you have more control, which is gonna be easier to keep my banding of colors going all the way across my canvas. You wanna know one of the coolest things about oil painting is you can change your mind on the fly. And you know what? I took a small break, and when I came back to my painting, I actually didn't like where my horizon line was sitting at. So I threw a second one in below at kind of like a 25% mark to 20% mark. I didn't really measure it out. I just did it by what I thought was aesthetically pleasing. And you know what? I like this a lot more. So I had to wipe off some color and throw in my ocean to be at this new horizon line. But it's not that big of a deal. Since it's wet on wet and it's oil paint, you can easily change things, and that undertone of grounding of blocked in color is actually gonna help with the nuance of the ocean. But I have to go back and fix some things, but it's okay. If you need to make any changes and you wipe anything off, just remember that you may have to add some additional liquid white base, so that way you have that smooth gradient going across your canvas and pushing everything in the direction that it wants. I want to also take a quick moment to talk about my blues. I used 2 blues in this painting. I'm gonna start with the sky. It's just a basic phthalo blue that I start at the top and gradually pull down to that white line that I already mentioned and talked about. Just butter smooth strokes back and forth, real easy. For my ocean, I knew it was going to be darker because the sun is lower, so less light is hitting it. So I want to use a darker blue. And for that, I used Prussian Blue. Prussian Blue, in my experience, is extremely strong and firm. So to make it more easy applicable to my canvas, I added some liquid clear. Now it's gonna do 2 things. It's gonna make my paint more transparent, which actually helps for the ocean effect, but it means I'm gonna apply more color. So I did multiple layers of Prussian Blue for my ocean. One was just naturally going across from the bottom all the way up to my horizon line. But then I also added the small effect of taking more Prussian Blue from the outsides and streaking in just ever so slightly to add a little more of a vignette appeal, but still that banding of colors, still the main thing I'm going for. Also, when you add your liquid clear, when it dries, it's actually gonna have a more glossy effect on top of the paint, which for the ocean is actually perfect since the ocean looks like a piece of glass when the sun hits it correctly. Okay, now we're up to the really fun part of the painting where you get to have fun with your palette knives and tools, putting on streaks of colors. And the best part about this is there's no right or wrong way to do it. I personally just added in a few streaks. Now each combination of color I put in here with like the Starburst Orange or Cadmium Yellow or reds, I did dilute down with a little bit of liquid clear. Reason being is most of my paints are fairly firm, so it'd be hard for the canvas to grab and stick on, but I also wanted a creamier paint so it actually holds some of those brush strokes that you can push in with your palette knife. Technically they'd be palette knife strokes, but who cares about terminology at this point? And I just let the canvas grab where I thought starbursting of colors and light would come out from behind my jetty. Have fun here. You can do streaks, you can do huge blobs and push it down with something like an icing spatula palette knife, or you can just pull things up or pull things down. There's no right or wrong way here. It's just a fun little abstract idea that you get to do. However, since we're gonna follow the rules of where our light is, I'm gonna have my brighter colors on top and my darker colors on bottom, because when we put that jetty in, less light is traveling over or through my jetty. Now we can actually get to the jetty. And this is basically going to be all silhouetted because since our light source is behind our jetty, not much light is getting through. So I'm just gonna use a combination of a lot of black, a little bit of Prussian Blue, and a little bit of Alizarin Crimson that I probably mixed to, no joke, right around 80% smooth. Now, why do you say 80%, Ryan? Well, it's because when I want to apply my black color on there, when it dries, I want some accents of blue. I want some accents of red because it's gonna make it look like light somehow cascaded over from certain positions, but jetties aren't full solid material. They're made up of just different boulders and rocks, and light can get in there and scatter and find its way through at certain points. And those different colors of red and blue, or maybe even a little bit of yellow, depending on what you wanna do, are gonna poke through at times. And when it dries and you look at it from different angles with all these different crevices and cracks, you're gonna see those colors, which gives it a little more of that appeal. But it also adds a little more depth to that impasto / abstract effect. If you made it this far in the painting, you're in luck because you're gonna get an ultimate tip that other people probably stopped watching, but also thank you for making it this far. Since we're applying so much oil and so many layers of that thick oil on top of each other, this painting is going to take an extremely long time to dry. What's the answer for that? I don't know. It really depends on how many layers and how thick those layers are. For the painting that you see in this video here, no joke, this will probably take somewhere between 6 months to 1 year to dry. It's gonna feel firm to the touch on top after about a month or so, but the inside of it is still curing and drying to a full consistency. That's kind of the downfall of oil if you're working in a rush, but trust me, wait, it's gonna look beautiful. Now, if you made it this far, you're probably wondering, well, what do I do after it's completely dry? I would really recommend adding a varnish coating on top of it. It's going to add to the saturation of colors. It's going to add a protection layer and stop light from damaging it that may be hitting it from when it's in your home from a window or something like that. Now, using brush varnish, extremely difficult with that impasto abstract layer on top of it. So what do? Well, I've got an awesome video that's going to teach you how to use spray varnish, which is over here to our side. It's gonna make your colors pop, but it's extremely easy to use, and I show you the correct technique on how to use that varnish can. If you guys like this type of video, hey, don't forget to hit like and subscribe like we said, and let me know where you'd like me to take you on our next history of art adventure. I'm always open for ideas, and I hope you give this painting a try. I'll catch you all later, take care, and of course, peace.